Good morning. Welcome back to Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs. And we welcome Senator Ron Huesdale, who's joining us via Zoom, who is, we know has walking pneumonia. So thank you, Keisha, for joining us. David isn't here, and we need you as a quorum member. So thank you so much, because I appreciate you are not feeling 100%. But this is a subject near and dear to your heart, and Randy and I are here. So Tom is out for the week. David should be here, we hope, any minute. So we welcome, there's David right now.
Sorry, Elkhart.
Elkhart, yikes. Making laws gets booted over making rules. Welcome, David.
My apologies.
That's okay. We are just starting because anyway, doesn't matter. Welcome. Today, just to remind people, we're going to be doing housing on Tuesdays and Fridays, and we're going to be doing mostly economic development related subjects on Wednesdays, and Thursdays are going to be devoted to labor, workforce, and then of course our interesting and non-slottable subjects of consumer protection, liquor, lottery, and cannabis will fit in as necessary. Today we are following up on some of our work of the last several years, and I would hand it over to our wonderful new Commissioner of Labor, Kendall Smith, to get us started.
Sure. So good morning, everybody. Kendall Smith, Commissioner for the Vermont Department of Labor. I am actually going to cede my seat to Savannah Haskell in just a second, but wanted to kind of kick us off in terms of what we have prepared for you in terms of collaborating together and as a cohesive team over the next hour and 15 minutes or so. First, the Office of Workforce, Strategy and Development is going to testify and is going to talk to you more about the broader workforce vision, how it's going to the board, the actions of the new office. Then the Department of Labor, I will come back up and we'll talk about some specific department level initiative updates that are in service to some of the board goals and work of that broader vision. And then I know after guys will take a break and we'll come back on data. So kind of going with the funnel, big to more and more levels of detail. So hopefully that'll create, a nice narrative for you guys to follow and ask questions about. Before I get up, I wanted to re-hand out, we gave you these last year, but in case you would like them again, pass those around. These are the Vermont's most promising jobs. This is a brochure that we put together with the McClure Foundation every 2 years, and it guides a lot of our work in the workforce realm. If you open it up, what you will see is 10-year projected openings, as well as wage data for where we have some of the most pressing workforce needs in Vermont. So this is something good just to hold on to, because over the past few years, when we figured out where do we want to invest time, money, and effort, we'll often refer back to this. It uses economic data from our Labor Market Information Division, as well as some art in terms of conversation with the McClure Foundation to pick out what you see here. This is the 25-26 edition. We will begin this year, start compiling the 27-28 edition.
Correct. So it will be sort of updated every 2 years.
Yep, that's the current. Yep, that's the current flow.
Because we always think we know what our most critical sectors are.
Changes.
And it changes. And so that's great. And it's a great partnership, a great public-private partnership.
Great. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of our other partnership work that we've been pursuing over the past year when I come back in a few minutes. But I will hand it off to Drake and to Savannah. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And before you leave, how are you enjoying yourself?
I'm enjoying it. It's been a really good year. It's been great.
Great. It's terrific to have you in this new partnership role.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, great. Welcome, Savannah and Drake.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think you know us all.
Yes.
And so I'm not sure what we need to be reintroduced.
Nope, and we're going to give you an overview of the office And I'll let Drake go first. I'm gonna close out with the last 2 years and what we've accomplished.
Great, because you have only been created in the last year. I mean, really, you hit the ground running
You're
last
taking one of my
January.
talking points. It's 1 year and 2 days.
1 year and 2 days.
Yes.
Good morning, Drake Turner, Deputy Director of the Office of Workforce Strategy and Development. The office is 1 year and 2 days old, and I joined back in August. So we're really excited to talk about this morning, and there's a lot of really exciting foundational work that we've been able to accomplish over the past year and much more to come. So just excited to give you a little bit of an update on what we've been up to and some forecasting of what we're prioritizing moving forward.
Great.
So I'm going to go over a little bit of background information. Some of this is for my own benefit, but also to sort of get us on the same page in terms of what's brought us to this moment, including a discussion of some of the roles and responsibilities both of the Office of Workforce Strategy and Development and the State Workforce Development Board, because both entities play really important and complementary roles in our workforce system. And then I'm going to give you all a brief update on what the Vermont Workforce Development Board has been up to, and then Sabina is going to give an update on what the Office of Workforce Strategy and Development has been up to. It's a lot of words, so I apologize if I start to blend them all together. So by way of background, I know there are a lot more chapters to this story, especially with the SOCWED work that really was the genesis for our office, and of course the State Workforce Development Board has existed for many years, but wanted to highlight two pieces of recent legislation that have given us a lot of our, for lack of a better term, marching orders when it comes to this work. So Act 146 of 2024 is what created the Office of Workforce Strategy and Development, which was a recommendation from the SOCWED work. And that act also reorganized the State Workforce Development Board. It's a federally mandated board. For Vermont to be able to accept WIOA funding, we must have a State Workforce Development Board. WIOA is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Thank you. Some states have multiple workforce boards. We have one, which is often the case when it comes to Vermont. But the board previous to this act, I think, had over 60 members, so it was a very large board. And I think to recognize that that may be a little bit too big, the legislature, you all in your wisdom, did some reorganizing. So now we're at 27 members. And so a lot of the work to start to think differently about how to organize workforce development was catalyzed by that piece of legislation. And then last year, Act 65 of 2025 added some additional clarification when it comes to roles and responsibilities of the office, of the board, and of different state agencies when it comes to workforce education and employment and training. So if you are in search of some light reading, there's a lot of good stuff in there. And then I also just want to spend a little bit of time clarifying what the roles of the State Workforce Development Board are versus the Office of Workforce Strategy and Development. Especially since we're a new office, I think there's work that we have been doing and are continuing to do to let people know we exist. We're a small office. It's the two of us. But to let people know, why we've been established, the value that we add to the system, and what we do and don't do. So just wanted to spend a little bit of time going over that. So the State Workforce Development Board, as I mentioned, is federally required under WIOA, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and there's also some state statutory responsibilities for the board. But simply stated, the Workforce Development Board is really responsible for strategy and oversight of the workforce system. It's a governance board. So the board sets statewide workforce priorities and goals. They advise the governor on workforce policy and strategy. That's a really important role of the board. There are a lot of functions under WIOA that the board is responsible for. So approving Vermont's WIOA state plan. There's a whole one-stop American Job Center system around the state in different offices that the board has an oversight role in. And we won't go into all of the minutia there, but there are a lot of WIOA responsibilities for the board and major system initiatives.
And just the importance of this in terms of a funding point of view, to remind our committee, WIOA funds significant percent of our workforce.
Yeah, and I won't get ahead of, Jay Ramsey probably can speak a little bit more eloquently than I can about that, but there are a lot of different titles under WIOA that fund services to adults, dislocated workers, youth, vocational rehab is under WIOA. There are a lot of different services provided to Vermonters that WIOA enables in the state.
Yeah.
Um,
Because we're used to thinking of labor being 90% federally funded. And I don't know if that's still the case, but we'll learn more about that as we get through.
So the board also really has a very important accountability role. There are a lot of different points at which the board is, reviewing performance data, making decisions, changing course if that's required. And then there's an important role for the board to play in engaging stakeholders and employers statewide, right? All of the meetings of the board are open meetings. We are excited to work with the board to do some more sort of outreach in communities of board members. We have representation from across the state to really make sure that the strategies that the board has identified are, true to what folks are experiencing on the ground and are moving us in the right direction. So that's sort of a quick snapshot of what the board is responsible for.
And just to remind us, the State Workforce Development Board has gone from 63 down to
27.
27, right? Big improvement.
And then if we can transition to the roles of the office for a moment. So as I mentioned, the board sets the direction and provides oversight, and the office is really responsible for coordinating, implementing, and executing the strategies that the board has identified. So the office is responsible for implementing, as I mentioned, board approved priorities and statewide workforce strategy. There's a really important coordination role that the office is designed to play across, state agencies and departments and external partners as well. And then there's a funding lens to that too, like having one entity that is more neutral to think about how can all of the different agencies, organizations, community partners that have a stake in workforce to help, create more coordination, more alignment than existed previously. So that will be work that will continue as we move forward. And it's really important work, and it also takes time. So we're excited to continue on in that function. The office is intended to align programs to those shared goals and in an effort to reduce fragmentation. So there are a lot of ways that have been working on that and will continue to work on that. There's also a lot of work to do to manage, data reporting and system analysis. There's some, we'll talk in a little bit about how we're thinking about workforce data with a report that we submitted to you all last month. And I think there are a lot of also reporting functions when it comes to WIOA that we support the board in fulfilling. And then, the office is also really working on identifying, where are there gaps, where are there opportunities, where are there overlaps in our workforce system to support the board's work and also the work of all of the partners at the table when it comes to our workforce system.
I think I'm just going to pause for a second because I think Senator Ron Hinsdale has a question. Keisha, do you have a question?
Yes. And I'm quieter than usual, so I hope you can hear me. Drake, I was on your website for current board members. Is that up to date?
Yes, I believe the current membership list is up to date, Senator.
Okay, and I don't know if the sort of in another section on governance and bylaws, there's reference to who is supposed to be represented on the board. It looks like it's considered there's one open seat right now in the business community. There's a lot of education-based nonprofit partners. And then there's some elected and appointed officials. I think you've received inquiries about our intent in statute that there be 2 members selected by our labor organizations. Are you working to fill those positions, or is that no longer something you all feel required to include?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We have received some inquiries on that issue and are looking into it to figure out sort of what's happening with that. Certainly, it's our intent to be fulfilling, the letter of the law as the legislature has passed it and as it's been signed by the governor. So would love to follow up with you on that.
Yeah,
and provide.
I'll just say, if we're talking about actually developing the workforce, I think it's really good to talk to our labor organizations. That's really different than a VSAC or a school or CTE function. These are the folks who really represent the rank and file workforce needs of employees in the state. So I think it would be really important to make sure we're meeting the spirit of the law and sooner than later and getting those 2 labor members appointed.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So we will definitely follow up with you all on that. And I also, this is not the same thing, but we will be talking about some of the committees that we're looking to stand up for the board's work in the coming year. And our intent is for the membership of those committees that are focused on the goals I'm going to be talking about that the board has approved. It's our intent and our commitment that the membership of those committees will be very expansive and include board and non-board members. So that's a separate issue to the one that you identified, Senator Ron Hinsdale, and we'll follow up with you on that as well. I just wanted to flag that.
Thanks, Keisha. Okay, great.
All right, moving on. So again, I just wanted to, as I've been coming up to speed in this role and sort of learning about the history of the board, one thing that I think is perhaps a little bit different about this board that is possible because the membership has been slimmed down, is that this is a board, and Sabina and I have had a lot of one-on-one conversations with board members, approaching the end of the first calendar year of this new board to sort of hear from folks how it's been going, what's worked well, what folks want to work on in the future. And I think every single person that we've talked to has expressed a real desire to be proactive and get to work. So I think the slimmed down nature of this board really will allow for more agility and movement because folks, I think some of the work of the previous board, there are a lot of WEO responsibilities that the board is responsible for, but we know that the population of folks who are eligible for WEO services does not encompass our entire workforce. So I think the lens of this board is really about serving Vermont's workforce as well as that smaller population of folks who are experiencing barriers who really need dedicated supports to be able to enter, advance, and meet their career goals. But there's a broader focus of this board as well. So I'm going to show you in a moment what our board membership looks like. But we have one open seat, as Senator Ron Hinsdale mentioned. We're working to fill that seat. It will be a business member. But the board has been fully reconstituted with new membership. We have really balanced representation from business, education, state agencies, higher education, and geographic representation as well.
So labor representation, we always used to have, I remember serving with the head of the electrical union, and we always had strong labor representation. And just we're not current.
We're looking into it. There's, we're still just sort of figuring out, there are different term lengths of different board members and just trying to get our hands on what the admin, and then determine, what do we need to do to make sure, because we want as many people at the table as possible, right? So this is going to be a very small slide. We can send you it in a different form, but this is the current membership of the board. We're feeling really positive about the level of engagement of these folks. And, I guess that's all I have to say about that. It's a great board. And we're excited to continue. The first year of this board was a lot of, foundational work, ground setting, learning about aspects of the workforce system, which is really important work. But I think folks are really eager in the new year to sort of hit the ground running and, figure out what's the impact that they want to have on our workforce system. Right, I think I just have a couple of slides left, and then I'm going to pass things over to Sabina. But one of the main outcomes of the board's work in 2025 was to approve 4 goals that really are going to guide the work of the board moving forward. And one of our board members in this room was instrumental to getting these goals in place. So thank you to that board member. So the 4 goals and these were approved at the final meeting of the full board last year, which was in November. So they're really, a lot of these goals are not new. These are issues that folks have really wanted to make progress on for many years, but some of them are also responding to more current conditions and that we're seeing across the state. And they've also really been grounded in work that's happening in state agencies to be sure that we're really aligned with what's happening in, the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, the Agency of Education, for example, so that we're all rowing in the same direction. So briefly, and you all have a copy of the goals as they were approved by the board. I think here I may have printed those out for you, so thank you for that. In case you want to see more, and again, the goals have been passed in November, and this is really the year where we're going to start to sort of march ahead and determine what board members want to work on first in these sort of larger buckets. So to just
In all fairness, there are 2 people who work really hard on these goals. I mean, other than.
well, there are many people. There are many people who work very hard on this,
on this too.
but you're the only board member in the room. So,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Kendall. Out of sight, out of mind, I guess. Okay. So 2 board members have worked really hard on these goals. Thank you. So the first goal, I'll just briefly run you through what they are, and then I think we'll hopefully be talking about them many more times, both as the office, but also the departments and agencies that are working on these issues. But the first goal is to make progress in increasing the supply of workers in key sectors. So a lot of the work of starting to frame out this goal was informed by Matt Garowitz and our labor market information whiz, along with Commissioner Smith, to think about what are some of the sectors in Vermont that really have a high need for workers. There are also, of course, many more, but the 5 that have been identified and that folks will be working on moving forward are construction and trades, manufacturing, healthcare and social services, professional and business services, which is sort of more of like the IT tech side of things, and leisure and hospitality. So there are a lot of folks, and again, this is not work that's going to be done purely by board members. We're going to need many, many folks at the table. But that
Anyone at this table would like to work on.
yes, the more the merrier for sure. So that's the first goal. The second goal is also a very robust, big, audacious one around supporting adults to re-engage and advance in the Vermont workforce. So that goal is really exciting. I know that Senator Carson, you've been really involved in framing that one out. And there's a real focus on coordinating a lot of the different folks that are providing services to adults, including adult CTE and adult education and literacy. Those are going to be really important partners on that work. There's a role that the board can play in creating a definition in Vermont of credentials of value, which is work that the previous board has made progress on, but there's still more to do. And I think a lot of progress being made on outreach and awareness of the different programs that are available to adults. So there will be a lot of work to do on that goal. The third goal is around supporting businesses to expand and relocate and stay in Vermont. I would add a third component to that goal. And this goal was really informed by Secretary Curley and her team to figure out how can we better align economic development and workforce development in service of businesses in the state. And really ensure that businesses are aware of and have access to all the resources they need. And then the fourth goal is to increase post-secondary graduate retention. And I think we've had some really great initial conversations about the types of work that the board could be engaged in, including digging a little bit deeper into what are some of the barriers that post-secondary grads experience, what are some of the perceived barriers that may not actually be the truth on the ground, but that are causing young folks to move out of Vermont or not think that this is a state for them. Yes, housing will of course be there. But I think we've had some interesting conversations about the importance of community integration and engagement, service, messaging. There could be some interesting work there, and then aligning higher education and workforce development. I think a lot of exciting and important work that should be happening there. So
So as your organization expands, matures, et cetera, are you going to offer metrics?
Yes.
At least for those?
Yes.
And when do you think we'll see the first flush of how you track, what you track?
So that's the perfect segue into this slide. Thank you, Senator. So yes. So now that the board has passed these goals, and we did keep them at a level at which when we create subcommittees to really dig deeper, it's not fully formed for them, right? We need folks to be engaged and determine, what do we want to be tracking? What does success look like? How do we measure it? And then what are the strategies and activities that folks want to pursue to make an impact? So I think probably tomorrow or next week, we're starting to work on standing up the goal-based subcommittees. So this is our.
I'd like to serve on them in this room or out in Zoom land. Is welcome to be in touch with Drake.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator Carson. I appreciate that. So this is our structure, current and future. The full board is sort of the big picture. We have an executive committee, which meets monthly. Senator Carson on our executive committee as well as Commissioner Smith, which is great. There's also been a group that's focused on healthcare workforce development. That has continued to meet even when the board was sort of paused. So there's great work there. That may be a group that you're interested in hearing from this session. They're focused on developing a strategic plan, and obviously there's really exciting opportunities around healthcare workforce development with the Rural Health Initiative. So lots of exciting stuff there. And then we're going to be working to stand up 4 goal-based subcommittees, hopefully as soon as possible, to start to get more of the information of, what are we looking at, how are we measuring it, et cetera. We started by surveying board members to learn which committees they're interested in joining, but we also want as many folks as possible to be participating in that work, even if they're not board members. So we have had some folks reach out to us, and I think I'm hoping that the groups will just evolve and morph to meet the need, but really we know that to be successful, we need to be as representative as possible of all the stakeholders that are involved in these issues. And then one last thing I'll mention before stopping talking so that you can hear from Sabina, is that there's a new federal program that will be coming online this summer, we think, that is really about workforce Pell, short-term Pell grants for folks.
Remind everybody what the Pell grants are for.
They're for education. Typically, they're for lower income students. There's a threshold of family income that had focused more on 2- and 4-year degrees. And so the Workforce Pell is broadening that opportunity to 1-year training programs, et cetera.
Yeah.
Stackable credentials that will get you started.
Yeah, pretty exciting.
It is exciting. And there will be a lot of work to do to stand up that program. The board has a role to play. Our higher education partners have work to do. So we're already working to convene a group just to start to strategize around.
And Ruth and Jay are pretty engaged with that too.
Yes.
Yes.
Dave?
Thank you, ma'am. Is the workforce Pell grants, are they specific to like 18 to 24, or is it also potentially
Does it include development too?
That's a good question, and I
Yeah,
don't
that is a
know
good
the
question.
exact answer. However, I would believe there's not an age requirement. But there will be a lifetime cap, if you will, so that a student can only, I'm making it up right now, only receive up to $8,000 in Pell grants. And so I don't know what that cap is going to be, but yeah.
We'll find, yeah.
Yeah, we'd be happy to share more information as that work is moving forward. We've been in a lot of conversations with folks at CCD about this. They're really on top of it. And other higher ed institutions are gonna have to.
Well, the Workforce Pell also kicks in at a lower age too for kids who may not be as full engaged, but are full engaged in high school, but are full engaged at CTE and have found their bliss and want to leave and follow that bliss.
Right.
Would that Workforce Pell follow them at age 16 to finish their?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of questions.
Those are questions.
Yeah, so we've think only recently we started to receive guidance from the federal government. There's a lot of work that will go into getting programs approved to be able to offer and participate in workforce health. So a lot of question marks, but it is an opportunity for the state and for Vermonters. So we'll keep you updated on that, but that will be another group of the board. So yeah, lots going on, lots more to do when it comes to the board, but folks are excited, we're excited, and we'd love to.
And actually, you know what is exciting? I think the board is excited, which, and we've had some very strong leadership in the past. Adam was a terrific chair, but I've served on the board now for 5 or 6 years, and this is the most excited and engaged I have felt the board. So, and I think we're all excited about having created these goals. Now we're excited about working on them.
Yeah.
And I think this board works best in subcommittees focused on very focused subjects. So,
And making progress.
Agreed.
Yes.
oh my,
That's
yeah, most pointless once we make progress.
Yeah. So that's the board update, and now Sabina, I think, is going to provide an update on what we've been doing at the office.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Drake. As Drake just said, I'm going to walk you through the office and the board's accomplishments for the last year and what we're looking forward to doing in year 2 and beyond. My talking point that I was hoping to say is we're 1 year and 2 days old as of today, which is exciting. And it's been a very, very action-packed year. Creating the new office, the new state entity, had a lot of operational behind the scenes, figuring out how we're going to, operationalize it, obviously. Then Drake joined us on August 11th. And we started to build the foundation for what I would like to call a collaborative concierge with everything workforce development, where we're going to start to connect with state agencies, with our outside partners, with educational institutions, with training providers, with community organizations, employers, and not last, but not least, Vermonters themselves when they're trying to move forward with their careers and workforce opportunities. As you know, we relaunched the board and it's begun its work. They had 4 meetings last year. As we talked about, the executive committee is meeting the first Monday of every month. And we used the first couple of meetings to give the board a foundation in WIOA training, because it's quite complicated at the federal level, what the requirements are for the board to do. And then we started looking at, and the board started looking at opportunities and goals for the future for everybody. As Drake mentioned earlier, if you get WIOA funding, you have to have a state workforce development board, and we're in a very small cache of single area states with only 1 state board, rather than a state like Pennsylvania, which may have 11. I'm making it up, but yeah. And so it's a little bit different structure, and in some ways there's more work, and in some ways it's more collaborative too. So that's what, just a little FYI. And part of that is that we need to do the board needs to be able to approve and make sure that the WIOA funding that Vermont receives, that we're in compliance with their regulations. And so there's that big, it's required and it's important, but it's time consuming as well.
So the reason we created this office and that we worked on Sockwood, Kendall, and Jay and I worked on this with Mike Marcotte for a long time, is that this committee and Commerce both were desperate looking at the hundreds of workforce development programs, and they were all managed separately. But we needed them to be better coordinated. So I think one of the key things that we're hoping for, and I'll speak for the committee because I think this is really what we're hoping for, is that workforce, both in and out of state government, is coordinated, aligned, defragmented, and that you will be in many ways the funnel for and DOF. You've got together will be the funnels for articulating our workforce priorities and needs for the state, and come to the legislature with basically a single voice saying, these are the priorities, this is what we would like you to be focused on and fund this year. So I think one of the words I'm missing in this slide is really coordinating in and out of state. I mean, all the programs so that we can know that we're not duplicating effort, which we have been in the past, so that we're clear on how they build on each other, how all these different workforce programs serve Vermonters in different ways, because we have so many different needs in Vermont. But, and there's so many different ways that we're serving Vermonters in the workforce arena. So as I think, I remember in that 2017, looking at that long list of totally uncoordinated workforce programs. And so we're very excited that you guys are really taking that piece on.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. And where I use the word collaborative concierge, it is coordinating concierge. We want to become the one-stop place for all of the in-state, state government and out of, partners, communities, employers, that they know they come to the website or they can come to us and we can help them figure out what their next steps are. Yeah.
And I would just add, if that's all right, Savannah, that I think a really important foundational step to the office being able to do that successfully is in the relationship building and the trust building with, state agency partners, with partners outside of state government, so that they want to come to us with that information and that they trust us to communicate it accurately and help them connect to where they need to be. So that the relationship building piece is really closely tied to that coordinating role.
Yeah. Yeah, Ray?
I think it's particularly important also that there be good tools and goals for measurement in terms of performance. And the performance is not just what's happening in Vermont compared to what happened yesterday and what's happening today, but where are we from a performance standpoint compared to other states, at least particular states that are either similar to us or the same geographical area. Do we lose more people per capita than they do? Do we hire people at higher or lower salaries than they do? Do we have skill sets that we desperately need and others also need that are doing better than us or worse than us, and why? That issue of performance measurement and metrics and also success rates compared to others, I think is particularly important.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely be digging into that with the data management model conversation. Yes, agreed. Yeah. Great. Okay. So moving on to what we see as our opportunities and our challenges, and sometimes they're both. The federal requirements with WIOA do compete with other longer term opportunities and for workforce development that the board wants to pursue as well, aka the goals. So because they're meeting 4 times a year, they have an executive committee once a month, so making sure that we're getting, it's 2 lanes of work, making sure that we get everything done. And just as a couple of examples, we have to do the biannual. Did you want to ask a question? Oh.
Kate has a question.
Oh, sorry.
Senator Ron Hinsdale.
Perhaps there's another slide after this, but it looks kind of like a capstone slide. I think you're hearing that people want specifics. This is a decent laundry list of opportunities and challenges. What is your goal for this session? I have an idea of what I think your goal should be because I feel like I need help making CTE central to our education reform conversation. But I think you need to put a marker in the ground about how you're actually going to show up in a really pivotal legislative session.
Okay, I appreciate that.
We do have just a couple more slides, Senator, but I appreciate the comment.
Yeah. I was saying that we're working on the required biannual update to the state WIOA plan, And we're meeting with our partners about that, with the modifications, and that's due in March. We just finished updating the MOU with required partners for the American Job Centers, also known as the One-Stop Operator System, that everybody has signed off on. So that's in good shape, and that is effective as of January 1 last week. The Pell implementation work begins next week. We have a smaller task force to start to dig into how we're gonna walk through all the new opportunities, and there are federal reporting requirements regarding such things as 70% of the people receiving the workforce Pell are employed within a certain time frame, that they are earning within a certain salary range, and that that there's also a requirement for the board that we are clear on what the priority sectors will be for those workforce Pels, and that will be, the governor will be making, will have to sign off on that. That will be.
So the feds dictate what the priority sectors are?
No, each state can choose.
Oh, we can, okay, good. So we we've identified, we've articulated.
Right.
Identified what
Right.
they see as
But
priorities.
then there's a process for making sure that it meets the federal requirements. And then the last interesting that we need to dig into is with the Workforce Health Program, is that who can offer the training or the credential needs to be accredited provider, and there's a time frame on that. It has changed a couple of times. I think now you have to have been accredited for at least a year. So
Well, all our CTE centers are accredited. I mean, we have a lot of, in our CCD, I mean, we have so much that's already accredited to go
Right.
on.
But it will have to, yes, it'll have to make sure that the feds agree that it's considered accredited. Right. So there's there's a check, that we can ensure that we met that. Right. Okay, so, and as Drake and Senator Ron Hinsdale mentioned, we've been working with the legislature on prioritizing CTE and adult education. It's a big deal. And it comes up in conversations all the time. So we'll continue to be working on that. And there's also a new opportunity for what we're calling a service to career pathways. So that if you're doing public service, that we show how that becomes a career. And Jay will get into that a little bit more as well. We will be collaborating with AHS and others on the new rural health transformation grant. There's a number of workforce development programs involved with that. So all these are great opportunities, and they're also challenges to moving as quickly as we all want to. And finally, we're going to be continuing to work on our data management models. And as you mentioned earlier, the inventory of programs, we're chugging along with that, but it's not ready for, it needs some more work. But that's not a surprise anyway. Okay, so.
Our time check, I'm just going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Check in on time.
Yeah, we were gonna
Because I think
share a little bit.
today.
Yeah, about what we've been hearing, but maybe we can just switch to what we're gonna be planning to work on for a year or two. Including being a presence in the State House and supporting the work that's happening.
Well, and we've appreciated your presentation. I appreciate it in the CTE work this summer.
Great. Yeah, that's been wonderful. Thank you.
So we're moving on to our 2026 priorities. Thank you. So the board is going to be digging in way more. We have, we're going to be establishing committees in the next few days. We have scheduled 4 full board meetings, one in February in Bennington County, one in June in Lamoille, one in September in the Washington Orange County area, one in December up in the Northeast Kingdom, both in person and virtual opportunities, obviously. The subcommittees will start meeting. They will be meeting 6 times a year is the goal. They'll have chairs, there'll be board members and non-board members, particularly people who are interested in the topics and the goals, as well as those who have the subject matter expertise to bring to the, reaching our progress and gathering the metrics and the key performance indicators that we've been talking about all along right now. Well, as we said, we're going to be continuing to work on the workforce Pell, which is very cool. We want to make sure, back to the collaborative coordinating concierge, that we're aligning our funding goals and our programs so that everybody deduplicating, that's not, siloing, et cetera. And then the website needs to be redesigned and updated so that it's not that it's not easy to use now, but we want it to be easier to use. And so that you can find, here's the inventory.
Anything workforce related has got to be easy to use
Right.
and exciting to look at,
Yes.
Right.
engaging.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity.
Easy to find.
Yeah, we have
All the
we have a
above.
lot.
All the above, and so that's one of the goals that we're gonna be focusing on. And we've been meeting with people all along this past year, and that's going to continue, that we're gonna keep reaching out to more and more people, employers, community organizations, our sister agencies and departments, that is, we just have to keep braiding and knitting everything together so that it takes a while for people to, it's over 1 year old, and so to know that we're here as the central gatekeeper, if you will.
Well, we have an example of it with ACTV just 2 days ago. So,
Yeah.
it's important that all your state partners and non-state partners appreciate that you are who they need to be coordinated.
And it takes time, but I think I'm really excited about the opportunity this session to make progress and learning more about how we can be of service to the state, to Vermonters, to our sister agencies, and building those, communication pathways and really taking advantage of the opportunities that exist. So I think it's going to be a really productive session for us.
That we're a resource, we're here,
Yeah.
Oh, you have that question? Have you talked to the Office of Workforce Strategy yet? Yeah.
You are deep, hopefully will be an incredibly deep resource.
Yeah. And
Madam
just-
Chair,
Will go.
Yeah, Keisha.
is this website redesign going to cost money?
No, we're really just need to do some formatting and redesign. There's no budget associated with that as far as I know.
I think you both know, I'm pretty triggered by words like clearinghouse and resource. You have to be a driver of this work. A strategy needs to be driven and managed, not kind of gazed at. And I've been doing the economic development work long enough to see so many entities be the clearinghouse and be the coordinators and the conveners and the aligners. I don't see anything here that tells me you've learned from those efforts and you're going to do something different.
Fair comment.
I think the way we have seen this, and I think the way that at least in my understanding, the office and board have been organized in statute, is that the board is the governance mechanism. They're the ones setting the strategy and the goals, and the office is here to support that process of goal setting and priority development and implement. So I think,
Keisha, I think we would all agree that
Yes.
we're hoping you will drive
Yes.
them.
Yes.
To me, that just sounds like a real passing of the buck. I probably shouldn't get my heart rate up because I'm not well, but like, who is going to tell us what the strategy is then?
That they will. That's, I think, what hopefully the office.
In 2 years?
When this slide, Senator, is about our priorities for this year, this is year 2 of the office. And so I think we're on the same page. I fully agree with what I'm hearing from folks. We want to be meeting the need.
I feel like by now we should hear the strategy. And if you're not the people who are saying you have the strategy, but your board does, are they coming in? I don't know what we are doing here.
I think what we're doing here is having, watching an office being set up, which is going to be exactly what I think you are hoping for, Keisha. But it is also needed to be set up, and it now has a team that is, moving forward and setting the groundwork to enable being the voice of workforce in large measure for the state, along with Jen. And who will drive workforce growth and development and align all that work and be the driver of workforce vision for the state. That is certainly the hope. Okay, I think with that, we're gonna pivot, and if that's okay, are there additional questions,
I
David?
just have one question. So the reality is, in the US, we're all feeding from the same labor trough. We're looking at the same workers, we're all trying to attract into our state those workers which we need and we desire. Who's communicating with our federal delegation about labor strategies?
I think there are, I will defer to the department for a moment, but we will be meeting more regularly with the U.S. Department of Labor. And I think it also depends on the program and what workers are there, but I think you'll be in a better position to answer that. Yeah, I know you guys are in contact with us way more than.
Is that part of your next? Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sabina and Drake.
Yeah.
Great start. We'll see you in a bit on,
We'll be right here.
stick around. Yeah, okay, great. Kendall and Jay.
And, Stephanie, you wanna?
Chris, you can speak right from there.
You
You know what?
you're
We
good,
can see
and
you right there.
You're
You're fine.
okay, you're good there.
I'm good there.
Deputy's gonna, also be part of this.
That's a new addition, is Chris, so she'll, why don't we, if Chris also introduce himself, because.
I'm gonna,
Yeah.
we will have, don't worry, we're gonna do introductions.
Right.
So good morning again, Kendall Smith, Commissioner from the Vermont Department of Labor. If I could just pick up so I just don't forget on your question. We, and I'll just say myself, over the past 8 years have been in frequent contact, particularly with Senator Sanders' office. Off and on as there's opportunities, we've had really successful collaboration with him in the after school and summer space in particular around seeding in soft skill development into those and figuring out ways that that can also be a space for career development and exploration opportunities. I also think back to a lot of work I did with his office when we were getting ARPA money in terms of healthcare workforce supports. They reached out to us about Workforce Pell, and with his position as chair of the health committee, he is particularly well situated to know what is going on and to work with us and state government in terms of kinds of workforce solutions that are advantageous to Vermont in the context of congressional lawmaking. I will say we were very grateful to him when going just back to the after school in summer. He was very integral in part of the ARPA money that went to schools and dictating that a certain percentage of that had to be used particularly for after school and summer programs that helped many states. But we were a little ahead of the curve on that, and that worked in our favor. But to your point, we all across the country have a labor shortage right now. So Randy, what you were asking, how are we comparing to other states? We have a diminishing pool of workers here in Vermont, and we are kind of a canary in the coal mine, as we know, with our aging demographic, and other states might be a little bit further behind us in terms of the extent of the crisis, but are certainly starting to feel it themselves. So we're not, we're unique in some ways, but we're not unique in all ways. And this is something that everybody is grappling with when we talk to our national partners in other states at convenings, conferences, webinars, etc. So it's important though, so we can think about how do we stay on, that's one thing that's always in my mind, how do we stay on the bleeding edge? How do we continue to be competitive in areas that we can be? Every state is having the same thought right now. It feels like an arms race of who's going to get there first. So who has that marketing edge? I know you heard from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development yesterday, but when we think about recruiting workers here, making the case for people to stay here, there isn't that marketing component because other states are doing that, they're doing it well, and I'm sure you've probably
Spending
seen
more money.
other ads, yeah. So anyway, that wasn't where we were gonna start the conversation, but I anecdotally wanted to let you know about, we did a really great line of communication with I will say through the Department of Labor, Senator Sanders' office in particular, but of course Senator Welch and Senator Balin, we also speak with them from time to time as well. So we're going to take you down another level into the Department of Labor. I know you all are familiar with us, so I'm not going to necessarily go too far in the weeds of how we are set up, but thought it would be helpful to give you kind of the 2025 year in review in terms of some of the significant work that we've done, where we've seen successes, where we also see opportunities, challenges. We'll talk a little bit about our 2026 legislative priorities, and thought it would be important to give you guys over here an update on the unemployment system modernization. We have a new UI system that I know you guys are aware is being built. That is going to be launched this calendar year in spring, summer of 2026. So we are literally months away from that. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail here in just a second. But since I last left you in the spring, we've been really focused on 3 kind of overarching core areas. And there's definitely more detail under each of these, but ensuring we have the effective, nimble, flexible supports across our 11 regional offices to serve job seekers and employers, continuing to grow our partnerships because we know solving the workforce needs is something we need many people at the table for, many partners. Department of Labor can own a piece of that, but if we're going to be successful, it's going to be because of the strength of our partnerships with other organizations and agencies across Vermont. And then, as I just touched on, doing everything we can to ensure we have a smooth UI launch this spring, summer. We have about 20 minutes, so we're going to try to go through
I
this.
think you can take another 5. given
Okay,
how many
okay.
papers there are.
Appropriate level of detail. You do have these slides, so we don't go, if you see something that interests you and we don't get to it, you all know how to find me, Jay, others, so reach out. We're always happy to come back. I will say off the bat, you're not going to necessarily see a robust multi-bill, multi-funding request package coming to this year from the Department of Labor. But that's not to say because there's not good, impactful work going on that's going to move us closer to our goals. I actually think there's a little bit of a good news story here, and we're going to go through this in a little bit more detail, but in terms of what the federal government is focused on, workforce is a priority for them, and they are putting a significant amount of federal funding into different workforce initiatives, such as apprenticeship. I was just trying to do the quick math in my head, but over the past few months, they've released over $300 million-ish directly to businesses that want to take advantage of different apprenticeship programs, which is a change. There's also a lot of philanthropy, even here at the state at the table now. The McClure Foundation, one of Lois McClure's final gifts was $25 million to workforce over the next 5 years. So we're working to partner, obviously, in terms of pushing out resources in terms of what's available federally, but also with private partners, which can potentially free up for you all state dollars for other quality of life supports that also go into making sure we have a strong workforce, like housing, like education transformation, like affordability. The other reason too is a lot of the things that are challenging for our workforce right now aren't necessarily things that are normally workforce initiatives. Like it's not like, oh, we don't have enough training programs. It's housing, which we'll talk about. It's for CTE, we'll talk about education and CTE. It's affordability. It's things, it's childcare, right? It's things that are not normally tagged as workforce or necessarily directly within our purview to control or be experts in. So that's also kind of a unique place that we find ourselves in. I will say, just again, to be blunt too, the UI system rolling out in this spring, summer in a few months. We're not going to say an exact date right now because we want to take our time and test it some more and communicate. We will obviously eventually communicate the date to you, and it will be here while you're in the session. But that's our number one operational priority for the next few months. We've invested with state dollars over $30 million into this. I know you all get constituent calls, probably more than you would like, about turnaround times, about the clunkiness of the existing 55-year-old system. So making sure that this rolls out as smoothly as possible is something I hope we can all be invested in. And
We are so invested.
yes, and unfortunately, the crunch time for that perfectly aligns with the session. So if you see me getting a little bit more crazed the closer to the spring we get, that is why. We have had introductions, a few leadership changes since we were last here. When I was here this spring, I was here as deputy. I am now the commissioner. We have welcomed a new deputy commissioner to the department, Chris Winters. Chris, I don't know if you want to say hi or say a few words.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I think we know each other. I'm really excited to be at the Department of Labor. It's a great confluence of my past experience at the Secretary of State's office, the Corporations Division, the Business Portal, professional licensing, and then coming most recently from the Department for Children and Families, all those human services issues, really kind of attacking those issues from a different angle and a different perspective. There's lots of connection that we have, and you'll see some of that in the slideshow today with the Human Services Agency as well. So just really excited to be on board and love the leadership team and what's going on at the Department of Labor. I've been there for 3 months now.
We're very happy and lucky to have Chris. She is not here with us today, but we also have a new unemployment insurance director. Her name is Christine Murphy. She was at Jai Talk. Randy, are you on Jai Talk? So you may have seen her this fall at Jai Talk, and I think you were able to connect with her as well. So you may have an opportunity to meet Director Murphy at some point over the course of the session. And then Rolla Hawthorne, who you all know, is officially our Department Policy and Legislative Affairs Director.
So
So
be the eyes and ears here at the State House for the session.
she will be the eyes and ears, and she also has an incredible amount of knowledge. Please utilize it. All right, you all know Jay. Jay is not new. You know Jay, so I'm gonna pass it off to Jay. We'll try to obviously ask us questions as we go, but just knowing that time is short, we'll try to give you enough, but not, well,
You have
try to appropriately pace ourselves.
Yeah, you have 20 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, we
can do it.
4 to 5 years so late.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Do you wanna?
Yes.
So these slides have a lot of words on them. I don't plan to read them to you,
We can read them.
but you can read them. I'm going to pull out a few things on each slide to talk about.
And just for the public, just remind the public what you're the director of.
All right, I'm the Director of Workforce Development at the Department of Labor, which means I'm responsible for all of the employment and training programs and for the operation of our 11 offices, which we also call job centers. So register apprenticeship is also under my area of responsibility. So there's 4 categories here that you can see on this slide: job seeker and then employer service transformation, training programs, modernization projects, and federal programs. Under the job seeker and employer service transformation, I want to talk about a couple of things. So we have 2 customers, employers and job seekers. Our job is to connect the 2. We connect job seekers through training, supportive services, funding, when they're eligible. Our regional job centers have for quite a while operated job fairs in partnership with other organizations in our local communities, but I don't think we've ever run a statewide job fair on the same day in every region. We have 5 regions. So we took a step in November to do that for part-time and seasonal employment. So we had 5 job fairs. On the same day in November, we changed our operating hours so that people who are getting off of work could stop in and visit with the employers and learn about our services. We saw about 230 people across the state with about 30 employers. So we were trying to be simple about it. We operated those in the offices where the job centers are. We're planning another one in February. With feedback from the construction industry that says our spring job fairs are too late. So in February at the end, the last Wednesday in February, we're planning to do a statewide job fair for construction and the trades. During January.
Maybe we use it as a field trip.
Oh,
It doesn't feel
that
good.
would be wonderful. We will let you know where we're hosting those, because you can either field trip, but because we're doing them in multiple different areas of the state, if we're doing one in our job center that is in your district or county, you might want to go to your home base.
That would be fine if it was all on Monday. If
Right.
it's not on Monday,
That's true.
we would probably want to go to one that was near here.
That is true. The closest one to here is our office in Barry. I will just want to quickly say what's been really great about this too is this is a new approach to us to be more responsive in real time to what we're seeing as demands, both from employers and from individuals. With the part-time job fair and some of the newsletters we send out, we're starting to see much higher engagement rates with people looking at the part-time jobs that were listed in terms of click rates. And also that coincided with the holiday seasonal push rate around retail and other leisure hospitality service industry employer needs. I individually popped into the job fair in Barrie. Chris went down to Springfield. We spread out to support our teams. There were high school students there. There were some middle-aged folks there, but I have to say the majority of individuals there were older Vermonters that were saying they needed to reconnect back into the labor force for any number of reasons. So one of the things too, we don't have this represented in our slide deck, is we're trying to think about how we can better support that older demographic that we're seeing being interested in returning back to work at not necessarily a full-time level, but at some level, what they need for support in order to do that. And then the construction one, we were hearing from the construction industry that some of our activities were a little bit later than they needed them to be in terms of how we can be helpful in terms of getting their spring, summer, fall workforce. So this event was in response in terms of bumping it up to that feedback, and construction trades is a core sector that we're focusing on, kind of harkening back to how this all feeds back into the larger goals and strategy.
And so just some other work that we're doing that's new and novel for us is sector-focused sprints. So the staff that work in the job centers that primarily serve businesses are going to be going out during this month to construction employers in that industry to interview them about their pain points, and are they aware of our services, and do they use Vermont Job Link, and if not, why, and can we help them post their jobs so that when we have the job fair, we can drive everyone to the job board so that they can see all of the jobs in one place, or as many of them as possible. So we're going to replicate that with other industries throughout the year. But the next one coming up is in February with construction. We do plan to do another seasonal and part-time one in October next year. The part-time job fairs, in addition to what Commissioner Smith said, are really important as a resource for the social service programs that have changing requirements, where people may need to go and try to find supplemental income so that they can stay on. So we practiced this fall to sort it out, and we're going to be replicating it again in an effort to respond to the changes in federal programs, which we'll talk about later. On the next bullet there, training programs, we're talking a lot about service to career pathways. So just what that means is, let's talk about AmeriCorps. There's 350 to 400 people who choose to come to Vermont to serve in AmeriCorps. So there's a built-in relocation. And what we're intending to do with the Service Commission, who is also represented on the Workforce Board, is to build kind of plug-and-play plans for those people who are in service programs. You're here to serve in Department of Environmental Conservation, but what if you had a pre-built plan to become an electrician in the apprenticeship program? That's what we're trying to do, lay out the pathway for people so that when they arrive here for their service, they can see that the state is also investing in efforts to keep them here and get them connected to the jobs that are in the economy that we most.
So we have about 70 to 100 AmeriCorps, just AmeriCorps alone. We have VISTA workers, we have all sorts of service, Vermont, just like in the arts sector, Vermont, I think, is the top number of nonprofits per capita in the country. We have huge service core businesses here in Vermont, and we have quite a few people who come here to work on service projects. For us to reach out to them to try and keep them is really a great, I think a great effort, and one I know we've been working on already, and I think building on that is terrific. It's a great group of people to want to keep. And
we have a really great partnership with the McClure Foundation, who is very interested in the service work and connecting people to the jobs here. So they're really one of our key partners.
And are we looking at, in the future, maybe not this year, looking at incentives that the state would provide to continue and support that work?
there are several different policy ideas that we're working through. I think the one that we're focused on for the next year is really the nuance of those pathways. We don't need money to do that. We just need to assign people to do it, to shepherd it through. And once we have that, then potentially next year we would come back with some bigger policy ideas that would have a meaningful impact on.
Yeah. Teach for America. I mean, we have quite a few of those federal service programs here, and some. I don't know how many Vermont-based ones we have, but we certainly have a lot of fed people here.
We do. In terms of, again, Senator Brock, back to your comment about how are we competing regionally, nationally, it was on the forefront of this. This service care pathways is something that Maryland has actually really successfully put together. So this year's type program on that may not be exactly what we come back with as a recommendation, but there are some different points of inspiration out there that we're looking at to see what makes sense for Vermont if we're going to really go at this in a big way.
Great.
So I'll skip to the next category and just say that we're trying to improve the experience of people who come into the job center. So we replace all of the computers that the public use to search for jobs. Our staff are really happy about that, and customers are really happy about it, the ones that come in and use them every day. In the federal program category, this is about our ongoing work as the federal government releases new programs and makes changes to some existing programs. There's generally a workforce development connection to them, and so I'll just say the Housing and Urban Development Continuum of Care grant. The federal government has added employment outcomes to that, and that's there's an area for the Workforce Development Division and our work with the city of Burlington, and I think it's called the whole of the state as there's two continuum of care.
That's great. Keisha.
Well, first, I just want to say, because I don't know when the next opportunity will be, that Commissioner Smith has responded very personally and thoroughly to several constituent complaints that had broader systems impact questions over the intervening time since last session. And again, having been engaged in a committee that has jurisdiction with the Department of Labor for a long time, I think it restored a lot of trust and goodwill with the Department of Labor. So I want to thank the commissioner. I haven't seen something like that in a long time, and I really think it's a byproduct that doesn't show up in PowerPoints, but is really, really important.
Here, I would underscore that.
You heard me talk about IT and modernization, and I think some of my frustration comes from watching really good navigation tools sometimes get sidelined or underfunded. And in this case, I'm thinking about what the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, I don't know, I always get their BDCC wrong, but they launched a Compass tool, I think was in the name, like a navigation system that I think was especially helpful for young people and new Americans and folks learning English and learning our culture of how you get a job. I think someone from the Department of Labor was there for their launch. It seemed like a really successful model to build on, and I think they've struggled with funding since then. Can you make sure that we're just talking in these clearinghouses and navigation tools about sort of how often that's been tried and failed? And sometimes it's because it was a clunky, incomplete system, but sometimes it's because like really good systems just don't get the continuity they deserve.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's really important. Keisha, that makes me think of it. Some of my own personal pet peeves is, and this isn't something that I realize I'm not going to be able to change. But there's so many job boards out there, right? So it's like, where the heck do you go to look for a job these days? So we have a job board, we have to have a job board. It's one of, again, another one of those federal requirements. So we're of course trying to make our job board be the most thorough, robust, good tool it can be, because we have to have it. But now there's also Handshake, and then there's still Indeed, and there's Front Porch Forum. I don't know, there's probably, right, even more out there. And so
Well, you have your state government.
the state government. And so then the parallel I'm hearing too is, right, these different navigation tools that we have different entities launching across the state. And we're not doing any of them at scale, I would say would probably be my immediate reaction to that, in terms of why they're not sustainable or why they don't necessarily become all they can be. And they also tend to be, because we're a small state, very personality dependent. So if you have someone on your team that's really invested in it and driving it forward, then great. But the minute that person leaves, if the next person that fills those shoes isn't, then all that progress and that funding and that time and that investment kind of stops. And so that's one of the things with the office, right, that our goals over time are to figure out how we can try to bring some order to this and decide which are our kind of tools of preference as a state and get that buy-in level. That may or may not be easy because, again, we're dealing with private and nonprofit organizations that can do whatever they want, where we say we would prefer you to do this or something else, but that's the goal.
Yeah, it would be great to further align all those and to look at but also Tom Cheney's Advanced Vermont, and not as a job, but as a pathways, articulating and creating pathways in, it's not a job link, but it's coordinating all that effort. Yes, it's good.
So I'm just we move to the next slide, which is about our upcoming work, and just to go down to the modernization project.
Oh, David, sorry.
Before you move on, I do have a question. So I want to link together that slide with the previous slide. The previous slide had your focus for 2026.
Yeah.
That the CTE
Yeah.
in particular. Okay, on the next slide, your ongoing department work.
Mhm.
You have adult CTE, but not, I would say, like the high school CTE.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, we're all focused on CTEs.
Mhm.
My neck of the woods, we turn away about a third of the applicants for CTE just for capacity reasons.
Yeah.
So what initiatives, what efforts
Yeah.
to address what you articulate as one of your core 2026?
I'll let Jay take this down another level. So the nuance here is, we have more of a funding tie, and I'm not gonna say quite governance tie to adult CTE, from the Department of Labor, whereas the Agency of Education, right, is the governance
I
entity
just wondered
for
where
high school CTE, but we will, yes, we can address this now. We are in almost constant communication, it feels like these days, with the Agency of Education around CTE governance and funding, potential changes. And legislatively, should the legislature take that up, you will probably see us in the room with them 90% of the time, on that conversation. And then Jay, I'll let you kind of take it down another level, because this is really something Jay has years of experience navigating, former CTE director for the Agency of Education, actually. So he has that experience for us.
So thank you for the question, the opportunity to add a little flavor here. From the workforce development systems perspective, right, that we have so many adults in the state, more adults than there are high school students. The workforce development system needs training providers. We need entities that can develop training and deliver them as part of registered apprenticeship. We need to be able to send people to them as part of our federal programs. And we need the facilities that the tech centers have and the equipment there to be available to the public at large. And the way the system works is it's primarily geared to high school students. That's a great opportunity. We want to make sure that high school students have an opportunity to, as Senator keeps saying, find their bliss, but sometimes they miss that opportunity and they get out into the world and they haven't found their bliss yet. So the tech centers could still be there to serve them and help them find their bliss, get a technical training, using the equipment and the space that the taxpayers have invested in. That system, though, across the state doesn't look the same.
Right.
Stafford has a full-time person, maybe there's another person there, that's working like a little community college. But depending on your zip code, that's what's driving whether you have access to that or not. And this is the space that the Department of Labor is trying to talk about. We need training providers to be available to offer low-cost training to employers, job seekers, and just to supplement our programs. That's what we're coming in to talk about as part of the CTE and adult programs.
Good.
CCB does great things, Vermont State University does great things, but they can't do everything, and they don't often have the equipment and facilities that the test centers do.
We're trying to rebrand from Cradle to Career to Cradle through Career to account for the ongoing professional development or upskilling we need even as an adult once you.
We're gonna take a break in a couple minutes, so.
All right.
And we can obviously have you back. I know that, Keisha's working, she's not here, but she's very present in my mind as we think about this, because I know she's developing a bill. And I know we have to work with the Education Committee on CTE and governance and funding. This is gonna be a big conversation. I would just say as an outsider, well, partial outsider to this, that the adult CTE even needs more work than our up and running, very successful CTE programs around the state. There's more consistency in our CTE programs around the state for high school students than there is for our adults. And I think that is as we look at trying to bring more people back into work, it particularly, and catch the people who, for whatever reason, have left. The adult CTE programs really are so essential.
Exactly. So like 5 minutes, let me try to then just in a, I apologize if this is disorganized, call out a few things then that I think that should be priorities just for you to know that we're working on.
There's nothing that's been disorganized.
Okay, well, we had a really great presentation lined up in terms of what we're working on that you should know about, whether it shows up again in a bill legislatively or not. We are working to change the way we do our adult CTE grants. We will give you a one-pager on that. It is something that Director Ramsey has been talking about with the field for 2 to 3 years now. We're trying to align it with the larger education transformation conversation. However, because it's changed, some people like it and some people don't. So we'll get you a one-pager on that.
This is your more to fewer.
Yes,
Right.
but larger.
More money to fewer institutions. Got it.
But also you can partner to apply for these. So that's one thing that you might hear about. We'll follow up with you on that at a later date. We are working to support our partners at the Agency of Human Services in various ways. Chris, feel free to jump in here if I don't get it quite right, but at a very high level. As Jay alluded to, there's new federal changes for work requirements for SNAP, TANF, and Medicaid recipients. It is more or less, do you have earnings or not? So we are collaborating with the Agency of Human Services so we can support people that need employment to get employment, along with figuring out what data we can give them for then the appropriate reporting to the federal government on if we're meeting our required targets or not. The Agency of Human Services, you probably read about in the news, we've said it a couple of times now, we as a state are receiving an incredible amount of money for our size through the Rural Health Transformation Program project. About 30 million of that is earmarked over the next 5 years for healthcare workforce support specifically.
Here in Vermont.
Here in Vermont. So later in this slide, you'll see some bullets about how that money has been planned to be used. If you want to hear more about that, you really should have the Agency of Human Services come in and talk about that bucket. We will join them, we will support them, we can help convene and collaborate, but they are really working through the finer details of that right now. And so that's something else that our time, our capacity, our brains are connecting in with. Similarly, the state also recently received a preschool development block grant, which is something early care and learning providers use, CDD administers, Building Bright Futures. I'm sorry, I'm looking at you because you were on healthcare. So that healthcare, I apologize. During your first term. Okay, so you might recall.
So compare the stars.
Yeah, that at a high level. Well, anyway, in that funding, $1 million is being earmarked for us to improve our fingerprint supported background check system, where right now the turnaround time for that is a workforce barrier. You heard in childcare, after summer education spaces. but there's many, many more professions that require fingerprint supported background check in order for you to be employed. And right now that can take over 8 weeks. I'm thinking, in my experience with some of the areas I've been working in, if you're in an after school space or a summer space, 8 weeks and summer's over. If you're looking to use
Or
somebody
trying to
in
volunteer.
July,
I
right?
mean,
Or
and our
volunteer
schools are
right,
basic.
for field trips, even for parents, right? So, we are supporting that effort broadly because it, again, is a broad workforce barrier, but the entities that will really be doing the work on that, if you want to know more, are the Child Development Division at DCF, are the Department of Public Safety, ADS is involved, Agency of Education is tracking it. It's a large kind of interagency effort. I mentioned that the federal government has turned on the spigot for apprenticeship funding. One of our specific and tactical goals for the coming year is to continue to grow our registered apprenticeship programs in the state. We
Just
know,
remind us how many you have, because we think of, electrical and plumbing. but
Okay,
we
so
have like
there's
300.
there's 29 current active occupations that you can apprentice in. Did I get that right, Jay?
29.
Active occupations that are active or money to apprentice in, that there's probably, I'm looking at around Jay, over 500 employers that are registered sponsors. Maybe we even have it on this slide. 106 active training programs and over 1,600 active apprentices. We are looking to get more employers on board, trying to register more pathways in the apprenticeship space. Again, in terms of learning, we are seeing kind of a demand for experiential experiences and for individuals that can't necessarily take time only to go to school and need to earn money while they learn. Important thing to remember when you're talking about apprenticeship is a job. So if you're talking to constituents, if you're talking to people, remember, if you are an apprentice, if you have a registered apprenticeship, it is first and foremost a job, but then there is that learning component to it that then helps you continue to progress in your
Is there
career.
a list of the apprenticeships?
We can get that to you. I don't know, we have it on our
It's
website.
on your website.
Rowan and her team actually created a really cool map where you can go on and see where every registered apprentice sponsor is, so all the businesses. So you could look for Franklin County and see how many businesses are registered apprenticeship sponsors in Franklin County. We'll get you, some of Rock will follow up with you.
That would be great.
To get you that
It's on the
information.
website. It's on your website. I ought to be able to find it.
Hopefully.
Okay, and
It's a
then,
state government website.
and then,
I will end it. So we are continuing to work on our workforce expansion project, which is something the legislature enabled. Happily to give you an update later. We have 2 areas of the state that are participating in that, the Northeast Kingdom and Addison County.
oh, exciting.
I talked about apprenticeship. Jay's already touched on sectors and service to career, and I touched on rural health transformation. I gave you the high level fingerprint supported background checks and HR1, which is SNAP's kind of Medicaid work requirements. And then the last slide, and I'll just end it here, and I enjoyed after this, was just to illustrate we have a variety of other partnerships in place right now. We've been working closely with VAMPAR over the past few months, which is the Vermont Association of Mental Health and Addiction Recovery, to see if we can co-brand their recovery friendly workplaces designation. I feel strongly about leading by example, so we've signed an MOU with the Guard to be a prime partner, which means that if the Guard refers Guard members or their dependents to us for employment, they're guaranteed at least an interview. Not necessarily a job, but an interview, but that can also help us then, if they're not a good fit for the department, help place them other places. Any private employer can enter into these MOUs as well. We are kind of a pilot trying it out for state government. And then you'll see, again, a growing list of some of our other more active partnerships at the moment. I know you have to go. Is there anything else from?
I just think we need a break. We can come back and we're gonna do data. We're gonna, and anything else you feel you need to add to, because we have until 11:15. So I'm just gonna give us till 10 of 11, give us 8 minutes, and then come back at 10 of 11 if we could, because we have more, I don't know how much data time will take, but then we can fill in with additional stuff that you felt you needed to add. Because we have until 11:15.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah. Great. Thank you. We're going to go offline and we're going to take a break for 8 minutes.